Lace has been renowned in the Shetland Islands for hundreds of years. It's a form of knitted lace using wool from native sheep. The complex web of delicate yarns and patterns has been used to create finest quality garments for generations. As far back as 1882, the lace knitters of Shetland's most northerly island Unst were quoted in the Dictionary of Needlework. But no knitting exceeds in beauty of texture that made in Shetland at Unst. Shetland lace has an almost ethereal quality, yet there is a striking contrast at its heart that makes Shetland lace unique. It is the very wildness of Shetland's environment that creates the incredibly soft, fine yarn that makes Shetland lace knitting unique. Shetland is a grouping of 100 islands at the crossroads of the North Atlantic, lying between Scotland, Norway and Faroe. There are hundreds of miles of coastline, brooding cliffs, rocky outcrops and unspoilt beaches have formed where the land meets the sea. Shetland sheep are a unique breed. Thought to be of Scandinavian origin, they've evolved on the islands since the 8th century. A fine-boned animal, hardy and adaptable, they're seen on heather hills or peaty moors, or at the seashore, grazing on seaweed exposed by the ebb tide. It is these environmental conditions and feeding habits that give a Shetland fleece its particularly resilient, delicate quality. The yarn has a very fine fibre. It's soft, almost silky to the touch. Indeed, this high-quality wool is one of the best in the world.
As we can see on the comb top here, it's the very, very fine fibre. It's just like a halo floating there. You can also see this on the sheep's back. You can see this very, very fine fibre. It's unique to Shetland sheep. Wool that was rude, plucked for Emslie, the neck and shoulders, fine wool Shetland sheep. The coloured sheep in Shetland's quite unique. There's 33 different colour markings. There's a cat mugget. It's got the black bellies and got the black legs, okay? A scadder fleece, that's the Shetland scadder, and that's like a black mane going up the back. Flacket with the spots, black spots, blaget, mugget.
Shetland yarn can be spun extremely finely, creating a one-ply yarn. Traditionally, the yarn's been spun by skilled hand spinners. One-ply lace is so delicate that a shawl can pass through a wedding ring. For generations, men and women in Shetland have made a life on the land and sea. However, for many it was a hard subsistence struggle. In the 19th century, most Shetland households supported themselves from small-scale farming known as crofting or by fishing the northern seas. Shetland sheep thrived on the islands, and with such a ready supply of wool, it's perhaps no surprise that knitting flourished on Shetland. The wool was used to make practical garments, such as the Shetland gansey or jersey. What better material for working outside in a Shetland gale than a garment made from the fleece of a Shetland sheep? Yet there was clearly something special about Shetland wool and Shetland knitters. What grew out of necessity became a world-renowned textiles tradition.
I think that the fine lace would be seen as the very finest it would have been at one time hand spun, and it spun into a very fine thread, and then hand knitted with patterns that were made up of a number of different motifs. And often this was done in such a way that when you knit it, there's a piece of pattern in every row, so between all the different holes in the pattern, you would see just one thread. That makes it look very, very fine and very, it just makes it look very special and very unique.
Perhaps it seems odd that such a fine form of knitting grew up from these exposed and at times harsh islands. But if we look a little closer at Shetland, we see that it's not really so very surprising. Amidst the immense land and seascapes are microcosms of flora and fauna. A multitude of small, delicate flowers grow on exposed peat moors. Finely patterned shells and complex rock formations can be found on Shetland's beaches and coastline. Shetland, then, is not only a place of grand scales, but also one of great fragility, complexity and beauty. Precisely the characteristics of Shetland lace knitting. It was such characteristics that brought Shetland lace to a new and eventually worldwide audience. As travellers and traders came to Shetland, they discovered these garments and designs. Lace knitting and feral knitting were new and exotic. The adaptable Shetlanders soon discovered that knitting not only provided them with clothing, but could also supplement the income of their households. Yet to create such intricate patterns took concentration, imagination, and time. Lace knitting is a skill handed down through generations. The tradition was not written down. Rather, it was passed on by word of mouth. Yet each new knitter would bring their own creativity to this living tradition. The stunning spider's web of patterns, yarn, and carefully constructed holes that create Shetland lace are particular to individuals. They bear names such as zigzag, cockleshell, or tree of life. Patterns were memorised by knitters and handed down through families. They are intricate and beautifully complex.
This is the zigzag pattern. It's very much like the new shell pattern that's knitted in lace scarves, but I thought that if you put half and then change the three together where the open stitch is, then it would make a zigzag pattern.
Now patterns are drawn out with extraordinary accuracy on graph paper. Whilst it was this labour-intensive accuracy that made Shetland lace knitting so desirable in the past, it is a tradition that at first found itself at odds with modern production methods. Shetland knitters became increasingly concerned that this tradition would be lost. The production of fine lace yarn is also highly labour-intensive, as Shetland fleeces are graded by hand. Other yarns cannot be used in the creation of Shetland lace knitting.
Woolen spun yarn is a bulkier yarn because it's all the fibres are mixed together. Worsted now, worsted spun is where it's all drawn out into one sliver.
This innovative project has found new ways to produce a one-ply Shetland yarn using a century-old Victorian production method, drawing out long fibres from the wool, the worsted process. In doing so, Shetland knitters will be helped and encouraged to continue to produce fine-quality Shetland lace.
Basically, the Shetland wools are very fine wools, not a lot of kemp, very little grey fibre, nice shielding wools, very clean wool. It's a very sought after wool is the Shetland.
As part of the project, Shetland's most skilled knitters have been asked to work with the new yarn and are delighted with the results. Modern production methods used in a manner that retains the unique characteristics of Shetland one-ply yarn are an essential part of keeping this heritage alive.
Many of the knitters have been really interested in the new yarn being produced by the Shetland wool brokers and available for them. It comes in a natural white and also in a lovely soft grey and I think a murret as well. And the knitters that have tried it out, especially the ones in the guild that I've spoken to, are delighted with it. They think that it is, when it's knitted, it is the nearest that we've got so far to the fine hand-spun yarn. It produces a lovely soft garment, a soft scarf or stole, and all of the ones that have tried it out seem really pleased with it. So I think that's great because it's opened up a lot of possibilities for women that doesn't spin.
This heirloom product that's been produced here out of the yarn, the wool, it captures what we had in the past in Shetland. It is like a renaissance of what we've had. It is part of our culture, our heritage, and it's just simply on its own for quality.
A new generation of designers and knitters are bringing their own ideas, and like centuries of knitters before them, their own creativity to the craft.
What I like most about this hat is the fact that the machine cannot knit this. It cannot knit this kind of material, and it cannot knit in beads. And it cannot knit it round and round like this either. It would have to be done in sections and then show it together on a lanker, and you just would never get the quality and the shape with a machine that you can with your hand. It's not possible.
Yet it's not only the enjoyment of making lace knitting that the Shetland Amenity Trust and Shetland Wool Brokers project aims to promote. It's also the aesthetic enjoyment of the finished product. It's being able to wear and touch such fine quality garments. This is a pleasure that can be enjoyed by anyone. It's hoped that Shetland lace will once more be as desirable and fashionable as it was in the 19th century. A newfound confidence in Shetland lace ensures a living heritage, inspiring further generations of designers and craftspeople.